In the far reaches of the galaxy, among the stars that twinkled like distant diamonds, existed a race of beings known as the Tylar. They weren't like humans, nor did they even understand humans at first. The Xylar were cold, logical creatures. Their world was built on order, reason, and precision. Every action they took, every decision they made, was calculated down to the smallest detail. They didn't believe in what humans called emotion or bonding. Those things were, to them, weaknesses, distractions from what really mattered: efficiency. Their leader, Kalar, was one of the most brilliant minds of their species. As the head of their intergalactic research team, Kalar had seen and studied countless life forms, from the tiniest microbes to towering spacefaring civilizations. However, when it came to humans, Kalar was dismissive. They were nothing but chaotic, emotional beings, driven by impulses that often led to destruction or unnecessary conflicts. Kalar had always thought that humanity's emotional nature was a flaw. It had no place in a universe that ran on the predictable laws of science. As Kalar prepared for an important meeting with a group of humans, they sat alone in their chamber, reviewing data. The humans had requested a partnership, a merger of sorts. There were whispers that humans were not as primitive as once believed. Some even said they had potential to unlock technologies that could change the future of the galaxy. But Kalar wasn't convinced. What could they possibly bring to the table? Kalar muttered to themselves. Their emotional volatility is their greatest weakness. Kalar had never met a human in person. All their knowledge came from studies and reports. But what they'd read didn't inspire hope. Humans were unpredictable, irrational, and consumed by emotions. They formed bonds with one another, something Kalar considered irrelevant. They were nothing like the Xylar, who viewed themselves as superior because of their unemotional, analytical nature. As Kalar paced back and forth in their room, they thought about the human ambassador, Captain Olivia Sykes, who would be arriving in a few hours. The humans had sent her to negotiate, hoping to establish a strong connection with the Xylar. Captain Sykes was known for her fiery personality and her reputation as someone who was deeply connected to her crew and her people. Kalar's mind raced with skepticism. "She'll likely try to use emotion to sway me," Kalar muttered, "but I won't fall for it." The doors to the chamber opened with a hiss, and Kalar's attention shifted immediately. Standing in the doorway was Captain Olivia Sykes. She was a woman of medium height, with short brown hair that framed her face. Her eyes were sharp, reflecting an intelligence that seemed to burn with an intensity that could rival even the Xylar's brightest minds. She wore the uniform of a human military officer, but there was something about her presence that seemed different. It wasn't just her uniform or her posture. There was an aura of strength, something that Kalar couldn't quite place. "Greetings, Ambassador Sykes," Kalar said coolly, offering a formal nod. "I trust your journey was acceptable." "More than acceptable," Olivia replied with a smile that was both confident and warm. "I'm glad we finally get the chance to meet, Kalar. I've heard a lot about the Xylar." Kalar's brow furrowed slightly. "I hope what you've heard is accurate." "Oh, I'm sure it is," Olivia said, her voice friendly but with an undercurrent of something Kalar couldn't quite decipher. "I believe the partnership between our species could be beneficial for both sides. We have technologies that could help you, and you have knowledge that could benefit us." Kalar studied Olivia, trying to gauge her every word, every movement. "We are capable of handling things on our own, Captain Sykes. We do not need assistance." Olivia's smile didn't falter. "Perhaps not. But sometimes cooperation can lead to greater things than we could achieve alone." Kalar found her words interesting. There was no hesitation, no sign of fear. Humans, despite their supposed emotional instability, had a certain persistence about them. They didn't back down easily. But Kalar wasn't swayed. "We do not value cooperation for the sake of emotional fulfillment," Kalar replied coldly. "The only value that exists in this universe is that which is practical and measurable." Olivia nodded, as if she had expected this. "I understand. And while I agree that practical value is important, I also believe that emotions have their own kind of strength. They drive us, help us grow, and connect with others in ways that logic alone cannot. Kaler's eyes narrowed. You waste your time on such notions, Captain. Emotions only cloud your judgment. Olivia's gaze remained steady. Perhaps, but they also make us human. And that's something I wouldn't trade for anything. There was a silence between them, thick with unspoken words. Kalar could feel their frustration rising. How could someone so illogical be so certain of their beliefs? How could a species so driven by emotions have survived, let alone thrived, in a galaxy full of cold, calculating beings like the Xylar? The conversation moved forward, but Kaler couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about this human. Olivia was unlike any being they had encountered before. She didn't fit into the neat, logical box that Kaler had prepared for all of humanity. She wasn't afraid of Kaler's coldness. She wasn't trying to appeal to reason or force a decision based on scientific facts. She simply believed in the strength of her people and in the power of emotions. It was then that Kaler realized the human was a challenge. She was not easily dismissed. Her beliefs were not simply illogical. They were different. And that difference intrigued Kalar. Despite themselves, they wanted to understand what made Olivia so unwavering. As the meeting went on, Kalar found themselves studying Olivia more than listening to her words. Her face was open, expressive, revealing every emotion as it passed. There were no hidden calculations behind her gaze, no attempts to manipulate or strategize. She was genuine, and that was something Kaler didn't know how to respond to. When the meeting finally ended, Olivia stood to leave, her hand outstretched toward Kaler. "Thank you for your time, Kaler," she said, her tone sincere. Kaler stared at her hand for a moment, their mind racing. There was no reason to shake hands. It wasn't part of their culture. It was unnecessary. But something about the gesture felt important, almost like an invitation, an offer to connect. After a long moment of hesitation, Kaler extended their hand and shook Olivia's firmly. For the first time in their life, Kaler felt something they couldn't name, a curiosity, a spark of something new that wasn't just data or logic. "This gesture," Kaler began, their voice almost uncertain, "is it meaningful?" Olivia's eyes softened. "It's a simple gesture, but yes, it's meaningful. It's how we connect, how we show trust and respect." Kaler's mind was swirling. The concept of trust, of showing respect through an act as simple as shaking hands, was something they had never considered. It seemed illogical, yet there was something in Olivia's eyes, something in her voice, that made them wonder if perhaps there was more to the universe than just cold, hard facts. As the door closed behind Olivia, Kaler stood still for a long moment, their mind racing. They had thought they understood everything there was to know about humanity, but now they weren't so sure. There was something about this human that defied all their calculations, something about her that was different. And for the first time, Kaler found themselves wondering, could the humans really be more than just emotional creatures? Could their bonds be something worth understanding? The days following the first meeting between Kaler and Olivia felt like an eternity. Kaler couldn't stop thinking about their encounter. The human was still a mystery, and no matter how hard they tried, Kaler couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her than just emotions. Her unwavering confidence, her strange ability to connect without logic. It was as if her very presence disrupted the orderly systems that Kaler had spent a lifetime perfecting. But soon, the conversation and intrigue faded into the background. The real reason the Xylar and humans were meeting had arrived, an urgent crisis that required the combined efforts of both species. The galaxy was in danger, and no amount of logical analysis could change that. It was time for action, and that meant Kaler and Olivia would have to work together, whether they liked it or not. The Xylar had discovered a massive asteroid on a collision course with a highly populated human colony. The asteroid was too large and too fast to be diverted by conventional means. The humans' technology was advanced, but their methods relied heavily on physical tools and mechanisms. The Xylar, on the other hand, excelled in manipulating energy fields, gravity, and quantum mechanics. If they could combine their expertise, the asteroid might be stopped in time. This wasn't an ordinary situation. The asteroid wasn't just a giant rock hurtling toward the colony. It was surrounded by a mysterious energy field, one that the Xylar couldn't analyze completely with their traditional methods. It seemed to bend the very laws of physics in ways that even they couldn't explain. But the humans, with their innovative spirit, had come up with a bold idea. They would send a human team into the heart of the energy field to gather data, while Kalar and Xylar would provide technical support from the outside. It was a plan that had never been attempted before. The Xylar, with their cold efficiency, had never allowed any of their kind to take such a dangerous risk. But the situation was dire, and desperate times called for desperate measures. At the forefront of this mission was Captain Olivia Sykes. She was the one chosen to lead the human team. Kalar, though, was skeptical. The Xylar had their own highly trained soldiers, technicians, and scientists. Why would they need to rely on humans for something this dangerous? What makes you think your people can handle this? Kalar asked, their voice cold, as they stood beside Olivia in the command center. Your methods are too unpredictable. You do not have the precision we require. Olivia glanced at Kalar, unfazed. And your people are too rigid. Sometimes, unpredictability is the only thing that works in situations like this. We're good at thinking on our feet. Kalar's eyes narrowed. This is not a game. This is about saving an entire colony. You will do exactly as you're told. Olivia's expression softened, but there was a hint of something else in her eyes, something Kalar couldn't quite interpret. I know the stakes, Kalar. But I also know that your people can't do this alone. We've faced things like this before. Together, we have a chance. There was a long pause, and then Kalar spoke again, their voice tinged with something like frustration. I don't trust your emotions to guide us through this. I don't expect you to, Olivia replied, her voice steady. But you'll learn to trust us as we go. We all have our strengths. Kalar was silent for a moment. There was a strange feeling creeping into their thoughts, something that they didn't want to acknowledge. Was it doubt, or was it just the sense that Olivia might be right? They didn't know. All they knew was that the plan was in motion, and they had no choice but to follow through with it. The mission began within hours. Olivia, along with a small team of humans, was prepared to board a specialized shuttle that would take them directly into the heart of the asteroid's energy field. They would collect data on the anomaly while avoiding the asteroid's gravitational pull. It was a mission fraught with danger, and everyone involved knew that the chances of success were slim. Kalar, standing at the command center, watched as Olivia and her team climbed into the shuttle. The Xylar's ships were already positioned, creating a protective energy shield around the shuttle, ready to provide cover at a moment's notice. Kalar had coordinated every aspect of the plan, analyzing every possible outcome, but there was still an unsettling feeling in the air. The unknown energy field that surrounded the asteroid was unlike anything they had encountered before. Even with all of their knowledge and technology, the Xylar couldn't predict how it would behave. Olivia's voice crackled over the comms, bringing Kalar's focus back to the present. We're ready to go. Initiating the approach now. Stay in constant communication, Kalar ordered, and do not deviate from the plan. Understood. We've got it, Kalar, Olivia responded, her voice full of determination. We'll do our part. You just make sure we have the cover we need. This wasn't an ordinary situation. The asteroid wasn't just a giant rock hurtling toward the colony. It was surrounded by a mysterious energy field, one that the Xylar couldn't analyze completely with their traditional methods. It seemed to bend the very laws of physics in ways that even they couldn't explain. But the humans, with their innovative spirit, had come up with a bold idea. They would send a human team into the heart of the energy field to gather data, while Kalar and Xylar would provide technical support from the outside. It was a plan that had never been attempted before. The Tylar, with their cold efficiency, had never allowed any of their kind to take such a dangerous risk. But the situation was dire, and desperate times called for desperate measures. At the forefront of this mission was Captain Olivia Sykes. She was the one chosen to lead the human team. Kalar, though, was skeptical. The Tylar had their own highly trained soldiers, technicians, and scientists. Why would they need to rely on humans for something this dangerous? What makes you think your people can handle this? Kalar asked, their voice cold, as they stood beside Olivia in the command center. Your methods are too unpredictable. You do not have the precision we require. Olivia glanced at Kalar, unfazed. And your people are too rigid. Sometimes, unpredictability is the only thing that works in situations like this. We're good at thinking on our feet. Kalar's eyes narrowed. This is not a game. This is about saving an entire colony. You will do exactly as you're told. Olivia's expression softened, but there was a hint of something else in her eyes, something Kalar couldn't quite interpret. I know the stakes, Kalar. But I also know that your people can't do this alone. We've faced things like this before. Together, we have a chance. There was a long pause, and then Kalar spoke again, their voice tinged with something like frustration. I don't trust your emotions to guide us through this. I don't expect you to, Olivia replied, her voice steady. But you'll learn to trust us as we go. We all have our strengths. Kalar was silent for a moment. There was a strange feeling creeping into their thoughts, something that they didn't want to acknowledge. Was it doubt, or was it just the sense that Olivia might be right? They didn't know. All they knew was that the plan was in motion, and they had no choice but to follow through with it. The mission began within hours. Olivia, along with a small team of humans, was prepared to board a specialized shuttle that would take them directly into the heart of the asteroid's energy field. They would collect data on the anomaly while avoiding the asteroid's gravitational pull. It was a mission fraught with danger, and everyone involved knew that the chances of success were slim. Kalar, standing at the command center, watched as Olivia and her team climbed into the shuttle. The Tyler's ships were already positioned, creating a protective energy shield around the shuttle, ready to provide cover at a moment's notice. Kalar had coordinated every aspect of the plan, analyzing every possible outcome, but there was still an unsettling feeling in the air. The unknown energy field that surrounded the asteroid was unlike anything they had encountered before. Even with all of their knowledge and technology, that Sylar couldn't predict how it would behave. Olivia's voice crackled over the comms, bringing Kalar's focus back to the present. We're ready to go. Initiating the approach now. Stay in constant communication, Kalar ordered, and do not deviate from the plan. Understood. We've got it, Kalar, Olivia responded, her voice full of determination. We'll do our part. You just make sure we have the cover we need. There was a pause on the other end of the comms, and Kalar could almost feel Olivia's eyes on them, even though she wasn't physically present. We can't leave yet. You said we needed to know everything. And I'm telling you, we're so close to understanding this field. I need a little more time, Kalar. Together, they would face the unknown. Back at the command center, the Xylar technicians watched in awe as Kalar's demeanor changed. It was subtle, but unmistakable. The cold, unyielding leader who had always valued reason above all else was now something different. There was a warmth to Kalar's gaze, a shift in their posture, and the technicians knew that something profound had happened. The connection between Kalar and Olivia was no longer just a theoretical idea. It was real, and it was growing stronger by the second. But no one, not even Kalar, fully understood what this connection would mean for the future. As the days passed after the shuttle's near-death encounter in the energy field, something continued to shift within Kalar. It wasn't obvious at first. After all, Kalar was used to being in control, used to having everything carefully planned out, every possibility calculated. Yet the quiet pull, the strange connection they felt with Olivia, was no longer something that could be ignored. It had started small, like a whisper in the back of their mind. But with every moment spent communicating with Olivia, whether through strategy sessions, urgent updates, or shared quiet moments during breaks, Kalar could feel the thread between them growing tighter, stronger. It was as though something inside them was awakening, something they hadn't even known was there. It was both exhilarating and terrifying, and Kalar wasn't sure whether they were ready for what it meant. In the shuttle, Olivia's leadership had been the deciding factor in their success. The data she had gathered, despite the dangers, had proven to be invaluable. Together, the humans and Sylar had formulated a plan to stop the asteroid in its tracks, but that was not what Kalar couldn't stop thinking about. It was what had happened between Olivia and them. Something unexplainable, something deeply human. They had saved the colony. The mission was a success, but the connection between them hadn't faded with the conclusion of the operation. No, it lingered like a shadow that couldn't be cast away. Now, back aboard the Sylar flagship, the crew was decompressing, trying to recover from the mission's strain. Everyone was exhausted, but it was a quiet exhaustion, the kind that came from a battle won, from knowing they had achieved something great. For most of the Sylar, the mission had been just that, a task, a job well done. For Kalar, it was something more. They couldn't stop thinking about Olivia. Her words had stayed with them, echoing in their thoughts. Trust in each other. The words had been so simple, yet they had shaken Kalar to their core. What did it mean to trust someone? Was it just a concept humans used to comfort themselves, or was it something more? Something real. The Sylar didn't trust, not the way humans did, at least. Trust, in Kalar's world, was a vulnerability. It was something that could be exploited, something that could be broken. But Olivia, she had trusted them. Despite everything, despite how different they were, Olivia had trusted Kalar with her life, her crew's lives. And in doing so, she had given Kalar something they had never known, a glimpse of something far beyond logic. And Kalar felt a pull toward it, a desire to understand. It was during one of their quiet communications, when the mission was finally over and they had a moment to breathe, that Kalar decided to reach out. They had been avoiding the connection for as long as possible, too caught up in the chaos of the mission and their own swirling thoughts. But now, there was no escaping it. Olivia, Kalar's voice came through the comms, more tentative than usual. Can we talk? There was a brief pause before Olivia's voice responded, calm but warm. Of course. What's on your mind? Kalar hesitated. They weren't sure how to explain what they were feeling, or if they even had the words for it. I've been thinking about what you said, Kalar began slowly. About trust. About bonding. It's not something I understand. Olivia was quiet for a moment, and Kalar could almost feel her trying to grasp what they were getting at. It's okay, Kalar. I know it's hard, but I want to help you understand. Kalar's brow furrowed. But why? Why would you want to help me understand something like this? The Sylar don't need this kind of connection. We don't. Kalar stopped, suddenly unsure of how to continue. I know, Olivia said softly. I know it's hard to understand. But that's exactly why I want to help. I want you to see what bonding is, what trust really means. It's not just about feelings, Kalar. It's about a deeper kind of strength. And I think you can learn something from it. The words hit Kalar in a way they hadn't anticipated. A deeper kind of strength. What did that mean? To Kalar, strength was about control. It was about knowing your limits, your boundaries, and using that knowledge to stay powerful and untouchable. But Olivia was talking about something else, something less defined but more potent. They didn't know how to respond, so instead, Kalar simply said, Tell me. Tell you what? Olivia replied, as though. We're ready, Olivia replied, her voice carrying the same quiet confidence that had carried them both through so much. Then let's begin. Together, they initiated the synchronization process. On one screen, Kalar could see the Xylar energy field flicker to life, its blue hue filling the room. On the other, Olivia's team was activating the human technology designed to amplify the field's strength. The two forces began to combine, their energies merging and swirling into a bright, intense light. For a moment, nothing happened. The room was silent as Kalar and Olivia waited, hearts pounding in unison. Would it work? Then, with a sudden, deafening hum, the energy field expanded, pulsing with raw power. The asteroid's trajectory shifted. It was working. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the asteroid began to veer off course. The deadly rock that had once seemed unstoppable was now being diverted, its path altered by the combined forces of Xylar and human technology. Kalar's breath caught in their throat as they watched the data stream across the screen, confirming that the asteroid's path had been successfully altered. It was no longer a threat. The crisis was over. "We did it," Kalar whispered, their voice filled with awe. Together, Olivia's voice came through, full of pride and relief. "We did it together, Kalar." There was a long silence before Olivia responded, her voice soft and understanding. "It's okay to feel that way, Kalar. Change isn't always easy, especially when it's something that shifts how you've lived your whole life." Kalar nodded, even though Olivia couldn't see them. It wasn't just that their understanding of trust had changed. It was deeper than that. They had learned to rely on someone else, to let go of the need for absolute control, to believe in something that couldn't be measured or calculated. They had discovered the true strength of vulnerability and the power of partnership. But even more than that, they had discovered the value of human connection. Something about the way Olivia had taught them, the way she had been patient and kind, had changed Kalar in ways they couldn't yet fully comprehend. And it scared them. The alien part of them, the part that had always been logical, always been in control, was unsure how to navigate this new reality. "You've given me something, Olivia," Kalar said, their voice quiet but sincere. "Something I didn't know I needed. I never thought I'd see the day where an alien was helping us with our tech," one of the engineers said with a grin. "But I guess anything's possible, huh?" Kalar felt a strange warmth in their chest at the comment. They weren't just an outsider anymore. They were part of the team. Later that evening, Kalar and Olivia spoke again. This time, their conversation was less about the mission and more about their personal growth. "You've come a long way," Olivia said, her voice full of pride. "I can see it. You're not the same as you were when we first met." Kalar smiled, even though Olivia couldn't see them. "I think you're right. I used to think I had everything figured out, that if I just stuck to the plan, everything would work. But now I realize that sometimes the best way to succeed is to trust others, to work together." "Exactly," Olivia replied. "And it's okay to not have all the answers. That's something I've learned from you too." Kalar felt a strange but comforting sense of peace. They had started this journey thinking they were alone, that they were the only ones who could carry the weight of the mission, the weight of the universe. But now, they knew better. They knew that they didn't have to bear the burden alone. They had Olivia, and they had the entire crew, both human and Xylar. Months passed, and the mission was officially considered a success. The asteroid was long gone, and the galaxy was safe once again. But for Kalar, the true success had come in the lessons they had learned, the growth they had experienced, and the bond they had formed with Olivia. They were no longer just a cold, calculating alien. They were part of something greater, something